All right, we're all set. Who's our leader today? Anasuya, are you going to talk Molly into, or are you jumping in? I don't see anybody here yet, so. Oh, the Mara family's here. Okay, hi everybody. They're signing on right now. They're not.
Okay.
I'll just kind of put it over here to the.
I didn't ask formally, but would you like to lead the first kids? Oh, no. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Nice to see you and nice to see you.
Usually have this in the cave because it's not showing the video right now. I'm not sure what's on.
Is this somebody's? Is that yours? No, it's not mine. I'm gonna be right over there in this chair because I like a chair.
Hi Danielle. We're still figuring out the video for a second.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. There we go.
Go on squeeze back. Yeah.
All right, Melanie.
Om Agyanatimeondasya Gyanashalakaya Chakshunmitam Vinasasma Shri Guru Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Govinda Yogasisha Shri Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadguru Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna,
We're gonna scoop, maybe
Yeah,
scoop
scoop it from small. Yes.
That's okay. I don't need a stand.
You don't need a stand?
I'm fine. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. We're studying from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 14, entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. We're on text 17. It's February 20th, 2022. We're here at Prabhupada House in Melrose, Florida. And
Is it recording?
it is recording. Yes, it is recording. So this is our Bhakti Yoga Enlightenment program. Welcome. I'm glad to be with you. So text 17. 14.17. Oh, let's see.
At 14.7.
It's 17.
Yeah, it's
It's 17.
14.17.
Oh, so
It's the one.
Yeah, it's the one that's.
Leave the one in front of the. It's more valuable than seven.
I'm ready to do 7 too.
Okay.
But I think we have 17 written there. So Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam.
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha
Tamaso
Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam.
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam
Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha.
Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam.
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam.
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Bhavato Jnanam Eva Cha
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam.
Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam Rajaso Lobha Eva Cha Pramada Mohau Tamaso Sattva, from the mode of goodness. Sanjayate, develops. Jnanam, knowledge. Rajasa, from the mode of passion. Lobha, greed. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Pramada, madness. Moha, illusion. Tamasa, from the mode of ignorance. Bhavata, develops. Ajnanam, nonsense. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Translation. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Since the present civilization is not very congenial to the living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals and cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they are taking a chance of being killed by the same animal in the next life. Because people have no education in actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. When they're actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober, in full knowledge of things as they are. Then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if the majority of the people are not happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is the possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to the modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion, people become greedy and their hankering for sense enjoyment has no limit. One can see that even if one has enough money and adequate arrangement for sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peace of mind. That is not possible because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing Krishna consciousness. One engaged in the mode of passion is not only mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation are also very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. This is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad. Because distressed by their circumstances, they take shelter of intoxication, and thus they sink further into ignorance. Their future in life is very dark. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Upakadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Panchakalpatiyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Pachitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Bhagavad-Gita, as it is, chapter 14, text 17, Sattvat Sanjaya Te Gyanam Rajaso Loba Eva Cha Pramada Mohal Tamaso Bhavato Gyanam Eva Cha. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. Hare Krishna. Okay. All right, so let's talk. This whole chapter is about the gunas. Guna means rope or string. The three modes: material nature, mode, and so that yes, this is, well, let's call it an empirical basis for happiness. Back in the 1990s, a while ago, 25 years ago or so, we developed as part of our academic PhD program. It's like a personality inventory called the Vedic Personality Inventory. And like our intention, our purpose in developing it, it's a psychological personality assessment inventory based on this ancient timeless psychology as described in the ancient Vedas, Bhagavad-Gita. And so when we established the hypothesis, the idea was to establish an empirical basis for happiness, an empirical basis for fulfillment, for peace, for inner security, for joy, for vibrancy, all of those qualities that we're seeking. So empirical basis. So the essential hypothesis is, the hypotheses are given in Bhagavad-Gita. So basically, Bhagavad-Gita, especially chapters 14, 17, and 18, they go in depth in the three modes of material nature. And then the follow-up book is called Srimad Bhagavatam, and that delves even further, more nuance, more subtlety and expansiveness. And so if we act, three basic gunas or modes. Tamas is like the mode of inertia. Rajas is the mode of activity. And sattva is the mode of goodness or enlightenment. That's how it's described here, goodness. And okay, so if we're in any area of life, whether it's our relationship with time, what we do with the morning hours, what we do with the afternoon hours, what we do with the night hours, right? So like at each periods of the day, there's certain modes prominent, okay? So this isn't like we feel like if we're up like in the pre-dawn hours, right? So we can feel there's like free transcendental nectar in the air, right? And we want to that's the time for like study and meditation. I mean, all time is good, but it's easier there in the pre-dawn hours, right? Because it's sattvic hours. It's sattvic hours. And then like, okay, late morning, afternoon, you can feel like activity. It's harder to like sit down and read a book there, right? Compared to like 5 a.m. And we probably all have this experience. Oh, that's a time for activity. That's a time productivity like that, right? And that's because that's mode of rajas, the mode of activity, right? And then like, okay, like what are the hours? What's the time of the day when we do the stupidest things? That we could take a poll. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, when we're up midnight, 1 a.m. and yeah, that's when we do the most foolish things, right? Maybe we could all tell stories, but we're not going to go there. Okay, we're not going to go there here. We're just going to. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, right? So those tamasic hours. That's why I'd say that's a good time to sleep. Sleep. That's a good time to sleep. Not to not get ourselves into trouble, because that's what those hours are mostly meant for, like that. So we can apply this analysis, modes of nature, to anything. It's pervasive from the food we eat. There's foods we eat that's more sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, from the work that we do to how we relate in our institutes called sattva tov, right? So we take that sattva and then the tov. The tov from the biblical Hebrew essentially means the same thing as sattva means in the ancient Sanskrit, goodness, enlightenment. And so we focus a lot like on like relationship principles, relationship skills, something like listening. So let's say if you're talking and what? You say something? So that might be listening in tamas, pretty dull-minded, pretty dull-minded. And then maybe, like if I'm, listening, I'm listening to reply, right? I'll have a reply and I'll one-up you. And my reply is going to show I'm smarter than you. And how my reply is going to show, like, you're wrong and I'm right, but I'm listening. Okay, I got an agenda going on. So it's like that might be listening in the mode of rajas. Okay, and then listening like really from a pure place of compassion, no agenda to coerce or manipulate, simply ready to be a pure mirror, to support you in your self-realization, listening really to understand that you feel received. This is a safe place. This is a safe place for all thoughts and emotions to be expressed. That's to be listening in the mode of sattva. Right? And the same with the expression side of communication. Maybe if I'm too scared to speak because I just want to go along to get along. I just want to go along. I don't want to. I'm too scared to speak my truth. So maybe that leads to depression or feeling all stifled like that. Okay, it could be like tamas, fear-based. If I'm maybe it's like I'm honest. I express my truth. Here it is, in your face. Truth. Take it like that. I'm an honest person. Okay, but not necessarily. That's not necessarily sattvic. Because real sattvic communication is sharing the truth without boldly, powerfully, courageously, and in a way that's truly intended for the benefit of everyone. Okay, and I'm not in the name of truth. I'm not trying to belittle you for you to feel hurt or put down. Or I'm not taking out my unhealed wounds on you on the name of honest feedback or that sort of thing. Same time, I'm not withholding. Sharing my perception, sharing my truth, sharing my point of view in a way that's courageous, considerate, simultaneously. And that's described later in the Bhagavad-Gita. That's an austerity of speech, right? Austerity, because like to really go deep in myself. Okay, I'm going to have the courage to share honestly and to do it and to do it in a way that I'm really coming from a place and choosing my words that's really intended for everyone's upliftment, and really from a caring place. So we can apply that to these three modes of nature to any area of life. Just to go a little bit more into the science of the gunas, the science of the modes. What are the modes of nature? It's the very stuff of matter. It's getting like philosophical. We just established this isn't just some abstract philosophy. It's an empirical basis for happiness. Meaning, the assertion is, and the research and the statistical crunching supports the Bhagavad-Gita assertions that to the extent that we develop and cultivate sattvic worldviews and habits in any area of life, that will correlate positively with all of those qualities we're seeking. That will correlate positively with joy, with happiness, with peace, with freedom, with playfulness, with vibrancy, with empowerment, like that. Okay. So it's a science. Prabhupada used that term a lot, a science of self-realization. Right? It's not just I believe, I don't believe. We can follow a process, see the results, see the extent to which the results match the results experienced by so many spiritual scientists throughout the ages and today. And today, so matter itself is made of the gunas. So it's the stuff of matter, and simultaneously the gunas are a categorization scheme for understanding matter. It's like a way to categorize matter, and it is what matter is made of simultaneously. And so, okay, so let's call it the ancient Vedic system is that one cultivates the mode of sattva or goodness. And then like this term Brahman is there's like many words from the ancient Vedas, from Bhagavad-Gita that have become well known around the world now. Terms like guru or karma or yoga or mantra, dharma. As far as the actual essential meaning of those words, they often become lost. But if we want the essential meaning, we can go to Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Yes, so Brahman, so you some here to be Brahman realized. So the idea is like a Brahmin in society has realized, Brahman realized means above, freedom, liberation. And there's many spiritual paths. We hear about liberation from the modes of material nature, liberation from the modes of material nature, right? So, because it means we're no longer pulled and pushed by the gunas, by the modes of material nature. And so then liberation. And then the question could be asked, all right, so now that I'm liberated, not that I'm liberated, but it's a hypothetical question. Now that I'm liberated, so now what?
Enjoy.
Okay, liberation. Okay, and then, and I'm presenting this because that question opens the door to something very distinctive given in this Bhakti science of self-realization. Because I know in many paths that I'm familiar with, either some study or talking to people like that, it's like, okay, liberation. Yeah, so enjoy. Yeah. What do I do to enjoy? Do I just do the same thing I'm doing here? Do I watch TV? Do I dance at the club? Do I talk about the Super Bowl or stuff that I heard people do that? Yeah, take a nap. Yeah. So what are the activities in liberation? That's an important question. What are the activities in liberation? Okay. I'm just going to kind of like put that question out there, because that's something that there's a rich response and a rich culture given in this tradition, culture, and philosophy and practice of bhakti. That's what are the activities in liberation? Okay, so we're not the body, we're spirit soul. What does the spirit soul do in the liberated state, free from the modes? Do we just keep acting in the modes? Like, so, and this is an important question. So the last verse of this chapter, the last line of the last verse of this chapter, Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtam. He says, Brahmano hi pratishtam. So what's that mean? So he talks about Brahman realization, above the modes. And then he goes, and I am the source of that. I'm the source of the white light. I'm the source of that that liberation. I'm the source of that oneness. I'm the source of that oneness, right? Above the duality of matter, love, of like, hate, hot, cold, above the modes. So meaning, just like, we talk a lot about, let's go deep, let's peel the layers and support each other to really go deep. Go deep means into the very foundation of our existence, right? And we know that if in our own relationship with ourselves, in relation with others, to the extent that we're keeping it shallow, keeping it superfluous, right? Just, keeping it in a narrow box, there's no fulfillment there. There might be some comfort, might be some, I get to belong to the club or something, but we're not really getting to deep authenticity. All right. So then, and there's different approaches, there's different philosophies about what is the substratum of all existence. Some philosophies say so what's at the core, what's at the very ground of who we are? Okay. What's like, if we demystify going deep? Right. So some say at the very core of everything, if we peel it there's nothing. Nothing. Okay. Many philosophies, many religious approaches. When we really get to the core, nothing. As some of you have heard me share, since the late 1970s, since I'm a teenager, I've been involved in different like human potential movement seminars and things like that, and like personal growth seminars, leadership seminars, and I've seen two basic philosophies there. One philosophy, I'll call it the philosophy. Not oftentimes, even the facilitators don't even know the philosophy underlying what they're facilitating. But if we go, what is the philosophy behind it? Even if someone says, "Oh, I'm not philosophical. I just do my job and I come home and then no, you got philosophy. You got philosophy. The goal of life is to eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and the goal of life is eating, sleeping, sex, and defense. And, okay, that's philosophy. We can talk about it. Does that satisfy? Okay. But whether we think about it or not, everyone's living from some philosophical ideas. Maybe we haven't consciously thought about it, and that's why we have these enlightenment programs. Consciously think about what we're doing and how come we're doing it. Maybe a lot of our life is just because maybe some French philosopher guy 500 years ago thought of an idea, and it's trickled down to North Florida 2022. These things happen. I've never really thought about it, but just
So we can blame the French? Is that?
Yeah.
That's right.
That was somewhat random. I could have said German. It was somewhat random, but Murray is here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, right. So that's what conscious living is about. That's conscious living is about. So and so there's the blank slate philosophy, where the idea is at the core, we are nothing. We are nothing. And on the platform, on the foundation of that nothing, we can invent any possibility we choose. And as some of you have heard me share, I've been in seminar rooms with dozens and hundreds of people celebrating and chanting mantras. We are nothing, we are nothing, we are nothing. I've seen it happen. So that's not where Bhagavad-Gita comes from. So Bhagavad-Gita, or our approach in Substratum Institute, is at the core, we are not nothing. at the core, metaphorically, we're a diamond, or that irreducible quanta of consciousness that is never crushed by time. Right? We're the driver of the car, not the car, to use that analogy. We're that atomic unit of sentience that inhabits the body. And so transformation, it's a process, it's not a process of invention. It's a process of cleansing. It's a process of uncovering. Just like a diamond is always pure and strong and effulgent and radiant. So, but a diamond can get covered. It can be covered by dust. Dust might be like sattva. Dirt might be like rajas and thick mud, 10 feet of thick mud. It's like tamas, okay? So we've allowed, like, my diamond got covered. No fair. That gets into another thing about like, it's not that it's no fair. I've jumped into the mud pretty deep and wallowed there for like 10 trillion lifetimes or something. So it's yeah, so it's like, where'd this mud come from? I didn't want any mud. At the same time, yeah, we get to so we get to engage in this cleansing process, and that's what this Bhakti Yoga is. That's what Bhagavad-Gita is giving. Yeah. So yes, so it's the very stuff of matter. It's a categorization scheme for matter, and so this sattva, the sattva gun, that the idea is, okay, pure sattva, then that becomes the platform for liberation. Okay. Now Krishna says in the penultimate verse of this chapter, text 26, Mam Chiyogya Vicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevite Sagunan Samati Aitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kapate. So he goes that those who engage Sagunan Samati, those who engage in bhakti, those who engage in devotional service, they're automatically free from the modes of nature, free from those ropes. Okay, so some philosophies say at the substratum of all existence, it's not nothing, it's matter. Maybe it's subatomic particles. Okay, that's not quite getting at it either. Some say, no, it's not matter. It's the oneness of all spirit. The oneness of all spirit. So that's called Brahman realization. And many attempts at spiritual life endeavor, that's the goal. Okay. And then Bhagavad-Gita is going deeper. So that, Krishna is saying, Brahmanohi Pratishtam, he says, I am the source of that oneness of all spirit. So that the very substratum of existence is transcendental personhood. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudeva is a name for the Supreme. That means the all-pervading person. And Antarasta, Paramanu. It's described in the heart of all living entities. Within every atom, there's an expansion of the personality of Godhead, right? Just like we're persons. So it makes sense, makes logical sense. Like, how could there be something in the effect that's not in the source? That the source must be a person. So going deep here, what we're talking about is using our personhood to voluntarily choose to serve that person who is the source of all existence, even of the spiritual white light, That's the process of bhakti. To the extent that we engage in the process of bhakti, well, then we're happy, we're free, we're peaceful, all those qualities of the diamond soul. And okay, so in the first line of the purport, it's a very interesting purport in so many ways. First line, Bhaktivedanta Swami writes, since the present civilization is not very congenial, meaning the present civilization, it's not so much founded and based on pure sattvic principles of virtue and character. Maybe someone's noticed that, okay? Right. Not so conducive for spiritual life. And Prabhupada was writing this about 60 years ago. So we can see, yes, actually, in many ways, present society tends to militate against spiritual life. Like if we try to take a stand for distinguishing reality from illusion, for self-realization, for truly conscious communication, true non-violence. Right? Because Bhagavad-Gita defines in a few places, Bhagavad-Gita says, if we spend time with each other and we're not supporting each other to create value in terms of self-realization, in terms of distinguishing reality from illusion, spirit from matter, body from soul, in terms of inspiring each other to deeper enthusiasm to serve God with devotion, then we're doing violence. Very heavy. So like that points of what are relationships for? Whether it's through humor, through deep conversation, through silence together, through activities together. Relationships are for creating a safe space to be present, to feel our feelings, not just for the sake of it, but to experience our experience in a container that supports this highest purpose, self-realization, Krishna consciousness. Of course, in the purport here, Prabhupada talks about another type of violence, right? Like jivo jivasya jivanam. In this world, one living entity is food for another. That's material existence. Okay. It's material existence. And so the Sattvic principle is, okay, so in nourishing our body, we're going to do violence. Let's minimize the violence. And so that's Sattvic approach to food. And there's a whole science for that. It culminates in something called prasadam. Okay. So Prabhupada says, this civilization is not very congenial to the living entities. Since this present civilization is not very congenial to living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. So what's going on there? So what's going on there? That the ideas, sattvic structures like that. So the more we cultivate sattva, then we're just naturally choosing this transcendental. Transcendental means transcendental to the modes. The more it's natural to choose. Let me chant mantra. Let me chant Hare Krishna. Let me study Bhagavad-Gita. Okay. So sattva leads to transcendental Krishna consciousness. And at the same time, if we wait till I'll get into Krishna consciousness when society is more sattvic. Okay. So we want to cultivate sattva. At the same time, the transcendental process of bhakti yoga, it's the yoga of the soul devoting itself to pure devotion to the Supreme Person. So this transcendental process, it's not dependent on any mode. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktirat hokshaje aitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. So that says that the Supreme, like we could judge how successful we are in our career or our relationships or any area of life. To what extent are these relationships, is this work, is this job, is this career, is this endeavor, to what extent is this provoking and inspiring an attraction and inspiration to hear about God and to serve God and to speak about God? And just to the extent that it's not, as Prabhupada, like, even if we're making a lot of money or getting very popular, then it is shrama eva hi kevalam, which means a blunt statement, a useless waste of time. Useless waste of time. And so aituki pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. So that means hetu means reason. So it means that to the extent that that's what I just want to serve God. Krishna is a very intimate name of the supreme entity. God's kind of a generic name. To the extent that I want to serve God with love and devotion, nothing material can get in the way. Yeah, but what about my family life? So whether it's good news or not, there's no excuse. But once the pandemic's over, then you can say, I'm getting to like serving Krishna. We'll say, but once I get a raise, once my health, so I took it. So the good news about that is like, that's the bliss of the soul. That's a fulfillment. That's a happiness that will never be crushed by time. That's a happiness. That's a peace that will never be devastated by any fluctuation of the weather, of people honoring me, insulting me, of health. It's always available, that devotional service. So the recommendation, the integration is, yeah, let us cultivate sattva in all areas of life while not making it the goal. From wherever we're at, that's why there's different systems in the ancient Vedas for God consciousness and self-realization. So there's the ancient Vedic system, which is kind of based on working our way up through the modes, becoming Brahminical, and then the impersonal liberation, that sort of thing. And so there's different meditation processes. Actually, the traditional meditation process described in the Vedas to achieve completion takes only 60,000 years. It's actually described. So for most of us, it's not real practical. Even to like meditate for 6 minutes, like it's not going to happen for me. So, to meditate in silence. That's why this whole mantra meditation works for me, because it positively engages. Right. Marie started us today in our program with a form of mantra. It's a meditation process. It's meditation on transcendental sound vibration. Right. So it's a process of engagement, a process of transformation. It's not a process of elimination. So I know for me, that's effective. Positively engaging, the power of speech, the power of hearing, the whole body, the power of dancing, like that. So Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he's a representative of the Vedas in the modern age, the authentic Vedic tradition. No compromise, and fully integrated, meeting us where we're at. So it goes, these 60,000 year meditating processes, gradually work your way up to Brahman over many lifetimes. This is going to work. These Vaidika processes, this is not practical. And so this is a very conservative process, very conserving these timeless principles, and very liberal, accommodating, and even radical in how they're applied. So very conservative in the principle. So this is called the Panchatrika. This is called the Panchatrika process. The Panchatrika process essentially is you have some spark of sincerity for self-realization and God consciousness. Fan that spark somehow or other, and the main process of somehow or other is chanting the names of God. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kolam, Steve, Gatyaranyata. Any name of God. But when Prabhupada, he would go to Iran, he would be with like Muslims, or would be at a Christian monastery. Because you have a name of God, Jesus, Allah, chant that. He wasn't trying to get them to change the name of God. And he would often say, and you don't have a name of God that you're chanting. Try this one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So this process, this is the main fanning the spark process from wherever we're at. Not to neglect cultivating sattva, at the same time, not to be dependent on that, And so, this Panchatrika process, meeting ourselves, meeting us where we're at, and supporting us, energizing us to get urgent about the higher principles of human life, of all life, actually, especially realizing who we are as the irreducible quantum of consciousness, that eternal spirit soul. Jivara Supohoy Krishnera Nichidas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beta Prakash. Eternal servants of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the substratum of all existence. That's what it means to go deep. In a sense, anything else is relatively superfluous. This Panchatrika system representing the Vedas, this actually was revealed by Sri Narada Muni. Just some examples, like some, for example, a while ago, a few million years ago, there was a Dhruva. And so Dhruva, when I say a while ago, you mean like last Tuesday? No, talking about like billions of years, eons ago, yuga cycles ago. So Dhruva, so Dhruva, at least in the past time, he was not pure Brahman, shanti. No, he was ferociously angry at his stepmother who wronged him, and he wanted to control empires. He wanted a kingdom greater than his fathers and grandfathers and great grandfathers, and so just mode of passion. You identified it. Yes, you get points. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, so he was just full of all sorts of material ambition. He was full of all sorts of and then so then he asked his mother. Like, so how can I fulfill these desires? I want a big kingdom. I want to show my stepmother. She's not like that. So it's just like vengeful. I mean, like, this isn't like Brahminical stuff, right? So he was a kshatriya, and so she said, well, I heard you should approach Vishnu for that. It's okay. Where do I find this Vishnu? Where do I find? I said, well, I heard you go to the forest for that. So she sort of directed, I heard you go to the forest. Okay, Vishnu in the forest, I'll give it to me. Say all these material desires, say doing some meditation in the forest. And then, so in the forest, so Narada Muni comes up. Narada Muni he has a sense of timing. Throughout the Bhagavad, he has a sense of timing, and he comes along and he sees, Dhruva's a 5-year-old boy. So he says, what are you doing here? You're a 5-year-old boy. It's dangerous. You'll get eaten by bears and lions and things. What are you doing?
Tigers.
Yeah, what's that? Tigers, yeah. So tigers, thank you. So Viagra, tiger, yeah. Okay, so so Dhruva, so he said, yeah, I want a kingdom. And then Narada Muni said, look, you're 5 years old, you should play. Go home, play. Play with toys, play with friends. Okay, come on, you're 5 years old. So he goes, no, I'm here to get a kingdom, biggest kingdom ever, and nothing's going to stop me. And Vishnu can do that for me. So yeah, I want Vishnu. All right. So Narada Muni saw he's got some material desires going on, but he's got some sincerity for Vishnu. So Narada Muni gave him some process, some mantra, because he fanned that spark. And then Dhruva Maharaj, he followed Narada Muni's Panchatrika process, means fan the spark from wherever you're at. You don't need to wait to become goodness and all that. Fan the spark. And then Dhruva Maharaj, he actually got fully present in direct personal relationship with Vishnu, super soul in his heart. Was ecstatic. And then he lost that connection. And he was mortified. And then he opened his eyes. And there's Vishnu appearing right before him. And then he's overwhelmed in ecstasy. And then Vishnu says, all right, what do you want? And then Dhruva Maharaj felt very, very bad. Very, very bad. Because the analogy given was I have the greatest diamond, just seeing you and being present with you. And I have the greatest diamond, and I was searching for shards of broken glass. I want power, I want money, I want people to honor me, like that. So by connecting in that process, Dhruva, he lost all material desires naturally, and then all he wanted is to serve you purely. And then as it played out, Vishnu says, okay, you just want to serve me. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to give you the huge kingdom you wanted, and then you'll use the kingdom to serve me with love and devotion. Use the kingdom to serve me with love and devotion. So from wherever we're at, engage in this process of bhakti. We get to read Bhagavad-Gita, we get to chant Hare Krishna, or any names of God that resonate with us. And at the same time to endeavor in each area of life, whether it's communication or our relationship with eating or sleeping, or relationship with money management, or relationship like that with space, with time. Like examples Bhaktivedanta Swami gives is like tamas is like wood, rajas is like smoke, and sattva is like fire. So fire is, that's when you can really do something there. Like with fire you can heat, you can cook. So we really want to cultivate the fire. Another analogy related to fire. So like there's a big fire, say a spark of the fire, and we are like sparks of God. We're spiritual sparks of God. It's like the spark of the fire. Let's say it leaves the fire and it lands in water. That represents tamas, like completely dead, extinguished. No, it's a metaphor. The spirit soul is never completely dead. Okay, even if we get really covered over and dull and 200 miles of thick mud on the diamond, we might enter into a lower species, but still the spirit soul will naturally work its way up back to the human form, and then we can again choose spiritual life, God consciousness. But water represents tamas, but then the spark can land on earth, on land, and that represents like rajas. Okay, like it's not flaming, but they can still see the spark. And then if the spark lands on dry grass, that represents sattva. Okay, the flames come again. So sattva supports Krishna consciousness, and Krishna consciousness naturally brings us up to higher modes, We want to cultivate sattvic habits, sattvic worldviews, and not make it the goal. An example we've often used, like the airport represents sattva. If I want to fly to London, okay, so might be the best platform from which to get to London is the Orlando airport. Affirmation. Right. Okay. So the Orlando airport represents sattva, and London is Goloka Vrindavan.
Whoa.
Okay. Use your imagination. But now let's say I get to the Orlando airport, and that is important. But then I'm there, I'm waiting at the boarding gate, and they call the plane, and then it's going. David Wolf, Mr. David Wolf, your plane is leaving in 2 minutes. But I'm there, they got a nice book, some music going on. Interesting people passing by. Look at these shops. And whoa. And then it's nice. And then I don't get on the plane. In some sense, I'm really not even closer to London than I was at my home in Alachua, Florida. Okay. So
Which is still nice.
We are part of LA.
yeah, technically. Measured it. So that's a potential sattvic trap, and we want to be careful of that. So cultivate sattva and not make it the goal. Hare Krishna, thanks for listening. Thanks for your sincerity and enthusiasm for self-realization and a sublime transcendental vibration. Chapter 14, Bhagavad-Gita as it is, text 17. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso rupati pamada moha tapaso bhavato jnanam evacha. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. Last thing came to me reading that translation again. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge. It's just like, somewhat bayam dvitiya binivesha tasya, material identification. There's so much anxiety. And with real knowledge, real spiritual knowledge, then we're free from anxiety. So it's like, this is important stuff to change, to shift the quality of our very experience of life and self. Just like, let's say it's very dark out, nighttime. We're walking here and there, and like there could be someone about to attack me from behind that tree. Maybe there's a snake or an animal like that. Maybe there's a snake or an animal. Okay, but then not even like the blazing noon sun, but even the beginning of dawn, right? The sun begins to rise, and I can see. Oh yeah, what's behind that tree? Oh yeah, I said there's no snake here. There is an animal. Let me go that way. We're no longer scared. We're no longer just so that dawning, a few rays of sunshine, not even it's pre-sunrise, but there's some light and we're free from fear. So that's like sattva. Then the blazing sun in the sky, that's the activities in liberation. And so just with the dawn, we don't really understand much about the blazing sun in the sky. Still with the dawn, we get, there is something. We don't get to understand much about it. As we delve more and more into what's called Shuddha Sattva through Bhakti Yoga, then the blazing sun gets revealed. Thanks for listening. Hare Krishna. I welcome at this time. Thanks for your presence. I welcome at this time if anyone would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions. Oh, yeah.
You said earlier, once you reach liberation, now what?
Yeah.
Do you have an answer?
Yeah, I was creating suspense and intrigue. Yeah, thanks for your question. What's your name? Cassidy. Okay, thanks for your question. Okay, I consider it a great question. Yes. Okay, so response to the question, I'll reference Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 15, very first verses. And in those verses, Krishna and Srila Prabhupada give an analogy. And Krishna talks about a tree with its branches down and its roots up. And he gives quite an extended metaphor, like an allegory. So where do we have a tree with its branches down and roots up? No. So there is such a thing. And if we're standing like on the bank of a river or a lake, and on the other side, there's specifically, it's called a banyan tree. Banyan trees, they're particularly big and huge networks of roots and branches. So on the other side of the lake or the river, there's the tree. So if we look at the reflection in the water, the branches are down, the roots are up. So that's the analogy. So then let's say it's a fruit tree, a banyan, fig tree, or something like that. So now if we go and try to grab a fruit in the reflection, there's no substance. We couldn't say it's false exactly, because it is real as a reflection. Okay. And so many approaches to spiritual life or liberation is about realizing, this is all false, illusory. There's no substance here. It's all in the purport to the first verse of chapter 15. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he gives a geometric explanation. He goes, okay, yeah, so it's all false, it's all illusion, right? These material activities, because it is based, sometimes we'll just like, it's based on relative truth, it's based on the reflection. Okay. If I say, I am David Wolf, I'm 61 years old, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So that's relative truth. But absolute truth means that which is true in all time and space. So will I be David Wolf a trillion years from now? Was I David Wolf 100 years ago? Yeah. So that this is an ephemeral world of names. So it's all illusion. But no. So Krishna and Prabhupada make the point. No, that's 180 degrees of the circle. That's the falsity. That's like that. That's the illusion. But there's the other 180 degrees. There's a real banyan tree. There's a real banyan tree with real fruits and real twigs and real leaves. Okay, a similar analogy we're creating a philosophical foundation to get more to your question. So another analogy is sometimes like an animal, maybe human sometimes. It could be in a desert and really thirsty, hot sun, and then they see an oasis 50 yards away, but it's actually a mirage, but the animal will run after it. Oh no, it's 50 yards that way, then the animal will die, right? And because it's just a mirage, right? So that's like that represents the material world, the happiness we're seeking. It's just a mirage because it doesn't really satisfy the soul because there's no water. But that's not true. There is water. It's just not in the desert. Okay. So there is a real banyan tree, there is real water. So Muktir Svayam, yes, Hitvanyata Rupam Svayam. That so real liberation is it's very active, it's very personal. So there are the real banyan tree, real water. There are spiritual relationships. So that, let's call it that liberation with variety doesn't mean no relationships. It means spiritual relating. Doesn't mean no dancing. There's spiritual dancing. It's dancing with truly with Krishna in the center. There's spiritual color. There are some pictures here. These are windows to the activities of liberation. There are some pictures here. There's spiritual friendship, there's spiritual romance, there's spiritual adventure, all with God, all with Krishna in the center. This is the science of Bhakti Yoga. It starts with coming out of attachment to the illusory form of adventure and romance and eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And as we come out of that more and more, we get revealed to us spiritual form, spiritual activity, spiritual quality, and there's like I'm just trying to open to give a few drops here, but actually these books of Bhaktivedanta Swami explains extensively what's that mean. What's that mean? Spiritual play, spiritual friendship, spiritual music. It's not just a whimsical concept, and how we can while in this body develop our taste and attraction for that and our realization about that. That's the actual unending, ever increasing bliss of the soul. So that's why this Bhakti Yoga, it's not a process of elimination, right? Like words are material. So real spiritual life would be silence. No, there's spiritual sound vibration. Every mantra here, every syllable in this Bhagavad-Gita, names of God, this is spiritual sound vibration. Well, spiritual life would mean there's no dancing. Well, just an hour, 15 minutes ago, we were dancing here. That's spiritual dancing. That's dancing that's going to liberate us from the modes of material nature. Material dancing will entangle us further in the illusion that I am this body, and by satisfying the body, I'll be happy. So everything here, everything within the material realm is a distorted reflection of what exists in the pure form in the spiritual realm, called Vaikuntha, which means place free from anxiety. Everything here, all the species, all the activities, all the qualities of relationship. This is like this is the reflection, this is the shadow. So in unlimited varieties of relationship and color and flavor, we get to engage and relate with Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, in distinctively, personally satisfying ways. Just like there's so much variety, wonderful variety in the material realm. This is just a pale reflection of the personal variety that exists in transcendental relationship. Appreciate your question. Thank you.
The main difference between activities on the material platform and liberated activities is the devotion to Krishna.
Yes. Yeah. Just to be clear, did you hear on the internet, Cassidy? He reflected, and I feel understood. Thank you. He reflected that the main distinction between material activities and spiritual activities are driven by devotion to Krishna, and to please Krishna's senses rather than to please these material senses. And then you might say the irony of that is when I give up trying to please my material senses to please Krishna's senses, then I'm completely satisfied. Me, the spirit soul. Thank you, Cassidy. Damayanti.
Are the three modes of material nature within the realm of duality? And is like duality means like kind of like black and white. Would goodness be on one side and passion and ignorance be on the other, like good and bad?
Okay, you're talking about three modes as it relates to duality,
Yes.
right? Okay. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's why Krishna says to Arjuna, Trigunya Vishayaveda, Nishtagarda, Bhavarjane Tedvanva, Nityasatpasto, Yoga Kshamami, something like that. So, so he says, yeah, he says to Arjuna, actually the Vedas mostly deal with the three modes and rise above that duality, rise above that duality. So duality means I'm misidentifying the actual spiritual self that I am with the senses, and so, and so, therefore, it's like it's hot, it's cold, or like that. So, say like hot summer day, so I have a cold drink. Oh, that's good. Let's say it's cold winter day, cold drink. Oh no, this is bad. So Krishna says that this happiness and distress based on the senses, he says to Arjuna, tolerate them without being disturbed. Pusham pusharshabha. Samaduka sukham dhira. Somitat bhaya kapate. Be steady, don't be disturbed. Means be steady. That's it, be steady. Be steady means continue with enthusiasm to engage in bhakti, whether right now the senses and the mind and the ego are happy or sad, because that's all based on the fluctuations of the modes of nature. It's all based on the fluctuations of the modes of nature. And I'm reminded of the book, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. He was a psychiatrist in the 1970s. It's like a seminal book in personal growth, spiritually based personal transformation. He starts his book with one sentence, 3 words. Life is difficult. Life is difficult. And then he goes on, he goes, this is truth. And he says, once we accept that life is difficult, okay, then it doesn't matter. Then life's not difficult anymore. So what's he saying? He was a very God-centered person. Because as long as we make our goal to make it not difficult, well, your life is difficult, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. And once I change that, once he stops doing that, once she starts that, and if he would just be less judgmental, and once the pandemic thing, and once we just fix the government, then life won't be difficult anymore. And so F. Scott Peck is saying, like with Bhagavad-Gita, no, life is difficult. Accept that, then we can stop wasting energy trying to make it not disturbing like it should be. And just like complaining and take psychiatric medicine and this and that. So then we can just get on with the real business of spiritual life. Cultivate self-realization, serving God with love and devotion. And then even the difficulties become opportunities to go deeper in my enthusiasm to serve Krishna with love and devotion. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Krishna says, supporting M. Scott Peck, Mamu Pecha Dukantiya Dukalayama Shashvata. Krishna says, even from the highest planet of Brahmaloka, which is like much better than Hawaii or something, okay? Krishna says, they're all places of birth, death, old age, disease, disturbances from birth, death, old age, disease, from eating, sleeping, mating, defending, disturbances from our own mind. Mark Twain often said, I've been through many terrible things in my life, and some of them actually happen. Meaning, as if life doesn't have enough difficulties, I'll create another 1,000 per day. Okay, and that's what the material mind will do. So Lord Chaitanya, he says, Dvaite Bhaja Bhaja Jnana Sabo Manodharm. He says this idea of good and bad in the material realm, he said it's all a mistake because it's all bad.
Who said that?
Lord Chaitanya.
Oh.
It's all bad, even if it's material, because what we're looking at here, what we're going for is the actual bliss of the soul. And Prabhupada addresses that, because even if we get, no, it's good, I got a lot of money, or like that. We're going to the actual bliss of the soul. So material happiness means like it's comparative, it's relative, it's not the absolute bliss of the soul. Material happiness is just like, yeah, I was in anxiety financially, but I just made this sale, so I'm in less anxiety now. Well, I am suffering in different ways, but if I look at my neighbor, she's more miserable than me. That's pretty good. I guess that's happiness. Okay, so it's all relative, and none of that, whether we have a heavenly life or a hellish life, none of it relates to the actual bliss of the soul, to the actual bliss of the soul. So it's all a mistake. And then if we respond to that difficult, disturbing context, and sometimes it's minor difficulties, we've all experienced major, severe, traumatic difficulties. And to the extent that we train ourselves to respond to that difficult context with fuller inspiration to serve God with love and devotion, then it's all good. Whatever is happening with our health or finances or relationships, we train ourselves to respond to the context with commitment to deeper enthusiasm to serve Krishna with love and devotion, then that's absolutely good. It's not a relative good based on how well my neighbor's doing or how well my health or finances are compared to a week ago. But as far as like health, the physical bodies, and how's your health? Pretty good. But the physical bodies, they will be worm stool or ashes in the ocean, or sorry, this. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So that's, and then Vaishnava oneness is not like, Vaishnava oneness is full of spiritual varieties, and it's all one because it's of a spiritual nature. So it's full of personality. It's one because everyone, well, we use that, we had a lecture entitled Ripple, was that on Friday? Ripple, yeah. And so, because about like the metaphor is like we throw a pebble into the water and there's ripples, there's a ripple. Okay, and then we throw more pebbles, and if all the pebbles are concentric in the center is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the ripples harmonize and synergize, and the wave is resonant like that, right? So Krishna is the center, the substratum of all existence, right? And so that's oneness. We all have the same aim. We all have the same aim, and so on that. So spiritual variety, activities after liberation, they're all one because they're all made of the same Satchidananda, eternally full of bliss knowledge in ecstatic form, and all made of the spiritual substance. And so it's free from material duality. It's spiritual oneness, and this is key: spiritual oneness with unlimited beautiful variety. So that's spiritual non-duality. And this philosophy is called, the technical name for this philosophy we're speaking is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which means simultaneous, inconceivable and simultaneous oneness and difference. Okay, so there's duality, right? Just like we're all personalities. We're all eternal spiritual personalities. And to realize our spiritual personality in distinctiveness requires that we rise above material duality. This is good, this is bad, based on our egoistic material calculations. Thanks for your question, Damayanti. Hare Krishna. Yes. Dada.
See me around the corner and hide that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of share my version of the answer to Cassidy's question, and then run it by you to see, like, what are your thoughts? Because I'm finding it's effective, but then again, I'm curious about, what else
Sure.
besides what I'm onto.
Okay.
So I heard a video with a guy last summer, or maybe it was in 2020. The guy that wrote the Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And he boiled it down to a couple things. One was like, in terms of like serving Krishna.
Yeah.
What I relate to is like, well, why is creation created? And there's a whole lot to be said about, well, if I'm the source and I'm the light, but I'm in a white room and a drop in the ocean, and it's like I can't experience myself.
Okay.
And God can't experience himself. So all this stuff that we're going through is so that we can go through the knowledge of who am I,
Yeah,
in relative terms of the duality,
yeah,
and the polarity and stuff, right? So that's the backdrop. But the part that really
okay,
spoke to me
yeah,
was like, whenever I get into desire,
yeah,
and Rajas brings what was the word?
So many-
I would say depression, but
passionate desires and grief.
grief.
Yeah, it's because our desires are
Right.
frustrated.
Right.
The
Right.
relationship was so passionate, but now we're grieving.
Grieving,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So what he was saying that really helped me was this idea that he had this breakthrough moment when he was asking God, like, what am I getting wrong? He was going through his 6th or 7th divorce, or
Yeah.
something like that. And God said to him, well, your life is not about you. It's about the people that you touch. And so what I think he was saying is, if I look at myself as the source,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking about how I want to relate to another person, he got kind of grandstanding, like Jesus would teach. I have come that you may have life. So if I'm the source, let me be the
Yeah.
source of what God wants for you.
yeah,
And then, as in your story, then everything kind of that you might fall in on you anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not even why you did it. It's
Right.
just the pure fulfillment of like,
a key point.
I'm just overjoyed that I got to do something for this person. Like that's the fulfillment. And so I feel like it's brought a lot of simplicity and peace of mind. When I get stirred up, if I can remember that, then I can just kind of remind myself, well, what would I be doing if I was really sophically
Yeah.
inclined to serve this person that I'm
Yeah.
thinking of? So that to me, to wrap it up, is like one way to get to the Sophic platform.
Yes.
But my sense is it's also like the same thing afterwards, like in Cassidy's question, like I would still have that sort of similar frame of mind,
Similar frame.
beyond in the divine activity. So
Yeah.
that's what's been working for me lately.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate your sharing very much. Thank you. Yeah. And your closure there, yeah, was like a similar frame of mind. So that's this, yeah, because the nature, there's the word dharma, right? Become pretty popular word throughout the world. Dharma, exactly. We just heard sharing from Dharma, but it's the same idea. So what is dharma? So essentially, dharma means that which cannot be separated from a thing. So for example, we would not say the dharma of fire is to cook. You can have fire that doesn't cook. We would say that the dharma of fire is heat. Can't separate heat from fire. The dharma of sugar is to be sweet. Can't separate sweetness from sugar. And the dharma of the spirit soul is to serve. Right? You got to serve somebody. Okay. So I think the song goes, we're either going to serve illusion or truth. So we can't separate. We're going to serve. We're going to serve, and that's what I hear is in your sharing. We're going to serve. Now, our choice is how to direct our service. Okay. We're going to serve. we're going to serve some ideology I picked up as a teenager. We're going to serve our need to be needed. We're going to serve our nation. We're going to serve our community. We're going to serve our family. We're going to serve our belly. We're going to serve. Our choice is how to direct our service. And okay, and so, and that's where you went with your sharing, like sattvic service. Okay, that's why, because service, we're going to serve, and even I'll serve others, but also that serving others, is it sentimental or is it based in sattvic knowledge? Okay, and just like basic analogies, like maybe I want to serve, and here's someone, and I'm not saying don't give charity or donation, but let's say, oh yeah, here I'll give you $100. Someone on the street suffering, and I'm not saying don't do that, like that, but just as to get the philosophical point. So then I'm at home thinking I'm a good person. I just served, a poor person. I am a good person. Now maybe he takes $100, he gets some crack cocaine, and he's dealing it at the high school. Okay, so is what I did good?
You're a bad person now.
Yeah, but I don't have you to tell me that, so I'm at home still thinking I'm a good person. That's an important point. That's why our service needs, like, to really do good. It's important that it's driven by true knowledge, and relate to what Bhagavad-Gita describes violence. Because even if our service is if our service is in tamas or rajas, even if we feel good about it, we're doing more harm than good. If our service is in the sattva, it's like, okay, we're doing some good. And if our service to each other, or the person on the street or whoever, if our service is really transcendental, then that's the enduring good. So transcendental means we're really supporting each other to wake up to who we are as entities, completely transcendental to this body. I like how you said that, similar mindedness, and that's why, there's the metaphor given. In the metaphor, the jaws of the cat represent death, also disease, old age. And this is part of the disturbances. Life is difficult, right? So there's the experience of the kitten in the jaws of the cat, and that experience is very nurturing, warm, sheltering. And there's the experience of the mouse or the rat in the jaws of the cat, and that experience is terrifying, same jaws. So the mouse, the rat, represents one who's not giving themselves to transcendental self-realization and devotional service. And the kitten is one who's giving their life to cultivate understanding of who I am as not the mental body, eternal spirit, soul, servant of Krishna. And so if we support ourselves and others to that realization, then that's the highest service, para upakara. Because then it's like death, the death of the body. If we get more technical philosophically, the body is always dead. What? Just like we can get into our cars, and so the car appears alive because the driver's inside, but actually the car is made of dead stuff, the metal, the plastic. It appears, so because the spirit soul's inside, the body appears alive, but actually it's been made of dead stuff. But then, so that's the eternal function of the soul, to serve God with love and devotion. So if I'm doing, then the time of death is kind of like, okay, it's kind of like I'm sitting here talking to you, and then I sit here talking to you. I'm doing the same thing. Okay. So if we use our time urgently, purposefully in this body to cultivate devotional service, bhakti, for ourselves and others, the highest service, but the highest welfare work, then the time of the death of the body, then it's simply like, okay, I'm serving Krishna with full determination. Now I move to that chair and I'm doing it from there. So that's why death is not a disturbance, because I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing. To the extent that I'm attached to anything material for myself or others, it's going to all be destroyed, either by the next pandemic, or by an economic downturn, or by the death of the body. And then there's fear. So yeah, so serving others, I like where you went with that, and then to cultivate realized knowledge of how to serve others in a way that's really for enduring benefit that will never be crushed by time. Thank you, Dada. Yeah. Back.
I understand that the body is a temporary materialistic entity. But I hear in the community, maybe I'm not hearing it here, but maybe I'm hearing it in my own mind, that this is not anything to actually cherish. Where I do believe that this is what I've been given, and to not discount it as passing and materialistic, but rather to be embracing what is, which is right now my experience of myself as a Wade, and to do. I've heard people say that angels are waiting in line for a human birth. For some, they say because of the gift of devotion. But the idea that this life is suffering and it's of no consequence, to me, this short blink is a blessing. That's all.
Thanks for sharing. I appreciate all parts of your sharing. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, of course it's a blessing. Yeah, definitely. I don't intend and didn't intend to give any other impression. I appreciate how you express that. And it's just like that. Yeah, I know to the extent that I realize as my life goes on that this body, it's a temple of God, and this I'm meant to use this body for service to Krishna. Then the more interested I am to appreciate the blessing of this body. That's a basic analogy that it's like, like if we have purposes, we're traveling here and there for important purposes. Of course, we want to take care of our car and keep it serviced and keep it clean. Take care of the car, of course.
And be the best warrior, Krishna told Arjuna, that you can be by remembering my name. Don't forget the connection, but to also be the best warrior that you can.
100%. 100%. Yeah. In any area, we know if we're trying to get by at 40%, 30% mediocrity, we're not satisfied. Give 100%. Yeah. Just, yeah. Tasmad sarveshu kaleshu mamanushma yudha chakra. He says, give 100% and think of me. And think of me. Yeah. Yeah. So just like we take care of our car because we use it to go from here to there. At the same time, while driving our car, yeah, we want to also cultivate realization that I'm not the car. So yeah, the body is beautiful. It's a temple of God, and to the extent that I'm like, the goal of life is to enjoy the body. Then I'm more likely to misuse it. I mean, this body is a temple of God. This is all energy of God. Now, of course, let's say to take the vehicle analogy, let's say we hear there's a car crash. We don't ask immediately, is the car total? Is it in the junkyard? No, we first ask, did anyone get injured? Did anyone die in the crash? Because the car is important, but we know the driver is more important. So the car has its value, and maybe later we'll ask, oh, is it in the junkyard? Did you get the insurance money? But was anyone, because we know that, so this body is important. It's a temple of God. I want to cultivate realization, and the eternal spirit soul inhabiting the body. That's more important. The body is a vehicle. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Should we go to Japa? Okay, thank you. In the next part of our program, we'll have an experience in chanting the names of God in the form of mantra. And so for those who would like to participate, we're going to experience mantra meditation in a form called japa, And japa, it's like beads, like a rosary. So let's distribute japa beads for those who'd like to participate in this next part of our program. We'll have an experience. Okay. So we're gonna have an experience in mantra yoga, mantra meditation. And it's a meditation process. Actually, the principle of any meditation process, like the principle of any multimedia presentation, is that the more senses engaged in an activity, the easier it is for the mind to focus. So here in this mantra meditation, we're positively related to your question, Cassidy, that this is like the activities in liberation. It's not about denying the senses. It's about positively utilizing the senses in spiritual process. So in this mantra meditation, it's not about denying or eliminating the senses, but it's about positively utilizing the power of speech, the power of hearing, and the sense of touch. And this is transcendental sound vibration. Transcendental means transcendental to the modes of nature. Rajas, tamas, and even transcendental to material sattva. And so the sound vibration, it actually reveals absolute truth, and simultaneously it's non-different from the truth that it reveals. Thus, whether we understand or not, it's transformational, purified, cleanses the diamond. And so the general process recommended for japa chanting is to use the right hand, thumb and middle finger, and to start with the bead next to the large bead. By large bead, I mean the bead with the tassel. Right hand, thumb and middle finger, and on that bead next to the tassel bead, to chant one Maha Mantra. The words to the mantra on the sign up there. And that mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then to move to the second bead next to the large bead, and on that bead chant one Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then move to the third bead away from the large bead. And again, one mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a meditation process, meditation on transcognitive, transrational sound vibration. So basically, in the process, we do our best to focus our mind and power of hearing on each word of the mantra and be with our experience. Simple process. If we notice our mind wandering to other things, which mind invariably does, if we notice our mind wandering to other places, simply notice that and then bring the mind and power of hearing back to each word of the mantra. And notice our experience. So this is a mantra. It's actually described in the ancient Vedas, the authoritative Vedas. Iti shota shakam nam nam kalikama shanashanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What that verse says is that in this particular age of Kali, that talks about in the verse, it's not a very conducive age for self-realization. The most potent, powerful process for self-realization and God consciousness in this age is chanting this 16-word mantra composed of 32 syllables. 16 words, really composed of 3 words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Each of those words is a name of the divine. Hare indicates the feminine essence of the divine. Rama means the reservoir of all bliss, the reservoir of all pleasure. And Krishna indicates the all-attractive personality. And so a special feature about the names of God, Namo Chintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigra, Purnashuddha Nitya Mukta Binat Van Namanamino, is that Krishna is fully present in his name. God is fully present in it. Just like in the New Testament, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, right? So God is non-different from his vibration. And that was, Damayanti's not here right now, but she asked about duality. So this is duality, there's a difference between the substance and the name. Like if I'm thirsty and I start saying water, I'll notice that I'm still thirsty, because there's a difference between the name water and the substance. But when we chant the names of God, Hare Krishna, God's fully present. God's fully present. That's why this is fulfilling. We're relating with God. So I think the entrance to the activities of liberation, the activities that oneness with spiritual variety, the entrance, the most recommended entrance is through the names of God. So on the string of japa, there's 108 beads, not including the bead with the tassel. So for those who'd like to join, we'll chant 1 round, which means 108 mantras in unison, starting with the bead next to the large bead. And we'll chant 1 round, and let's be present and chant 1 round in unison, starting with the first bead next to the large bead. Let's begin. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for chanting Hare Krishna. I'll ask if anyone would like to share what you're experiencing, what you experienced during the group chanting. And I'll ask you to share in the form of I am experiencing, meaning simply state the stem, I am experiencing, and complete that with one or a few words or a short phrase or two. Would anyone like to share what you're experiencing in the form of I am experiencing?
I'm experiencing relief, grounded, and relaxed.
Relieved, grounded, relaxed. Thank you, Patrick. Rukmini.
I'm experiencing ripple.
Ripple. Yeah.
And also I have this sentence of care. I'm eternally protected.
Experiencing resonant ripple and eternally protected, eternally sheltered. Thank you, Rukmini. Brenda.
I'm experiencing spiritual togetherness, invigoration, and serenity.
Thank you, Brenda. Sky Diamond.
I'm experiencing peace and just like a very kind of head high kind of thing.
Peace and let's call it a natural spiritual high. Thank you, Sky.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I'm experiencing rocking, and it's a sensation of comfort.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you.
I'm experiencing like harmony from the group chanting. The simultaneous voices are really filling me up today.
Harmony from the group chanting. Thank you, Lakshmi Priya.
I'm experiencing a lot of connection.
Energy, a lot of energy. Thank you, Mom.
I'm experiencing a oneness with many voices.
Experiencing oneness with many voices. Thank you. Deborah? Deborah, thanks for sharing.
I'm experiencing very focused mind vibration, but also something.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing your experience.
I'm experiencing silence.
Silence. Thank you, Ladini. So this chanting, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Japa, I know for myself for about 40 years, this has been the cornerstone of the main cornerstone of my spiritual practice. And you're welcome if you'd like, if you'll use the beads for chanting, you're welcome to take them with you. And yes, actually since about 39 years, since 1983, I fulfilled a vow to chant at least 16 rounds every day of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on Japa. And it's definitely something in my life I feel very good about, that I fulfilled that vow. I appreciate all parts of my life, and the part of each day I look forward to the most is relating to this mantra, Hare Krishna. And this moves me to clarity, purpose, and fulfillment. And about just what we were talking about how, to the extent that I'm focused, present in my chanting, and especially like chanting at any time is transcendental, and I especially like chanting in the sattvic hours morning. And the sense that I'm, alive in the chanting, then I'm very clear how to respond to the different opportunities and difficulties and disturbances of life and of my own mind in a way that's truly purposeful, life-giving, and cleansing for my diamond and that of others. It's described, actually, this is an eternal process described in the ancient Vedas, this chanting Hare Krishna. The process was rejuvenated about 500 years ago by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, Nam namakri bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrapita niyamita smarane nakala. Those words nakala means for this chanting to be effective, this chanting of the names of Krishna to be effective, there's no rules or regulations. We just chanted in a group. We can chant on our own. We can chant standing. We can chant. Sometimes I'll chant taking a walk outside. Yeah. I mean, look, for some of the ancient mantras to be effective, we need training in the intricacies of the breathing process and the inflection and the intonation. So for this chanting, we simply chant from wherever we're at. We can sing the mantra while we're driving in a car. We can be pacing in our living room and be with our experience and experience the diamond that is us getting cleansed. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, thank you all for your presence and participation.
You guys all have a little verse you can take with you. And a few of us are memorizing the 12 verses this year. So this is the second one. If you need the first one and you're interested in going for all 12, you can see I'll give you a copy of it. I've had several people call me with success, including Rachel, who's in this room. So I have a little prize for people who I'm excited to me, I can give you a prize, but you take this one for next month, and then I'll give you one for last month. If you missed it, and you can go up to all 12. And so I thought we'd go outside. It's so nice today, and Ruby's birthday is today, so I was going to ask if you would lead for us, if you're 10 outside with that. Wow. Treat for your birthday. I thought maybe we'd make a big circle outside and just put you in the middle of it. And then we'll hide for shy.
Yom Holedet Sameach. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on Bhagavad-Gita.
Yes, beautiful. Do we have anyone else online?
That's it.
Do we have anyone else
Yeah.
online? No?
So we
Okay.
can close it.
Yep, I think so.
What did you tell me about what did hara mean and